Hey there guys, welcome to Language Guru. My name is Ralston and I'll be talking a little bit about Latin today. So recently I made a post about why a person should learn Latin. The fact is that there are many reasons why a person might want to learn Latin today. Today, this video is mainly meant to be a short synopsis of the article I wrote. I'll post a link to it down below. But I'm going to be covering four main reasons why a person might want to learn Latin. So let's dig in. The first reason why a person might want to learn Latin is to gain a better understanding of other languages. So, Latin is the mother language of a language family called the Romance languages, which includes languages such as Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese, Romanian, and so on. So, these languages derive about 80% of their vocabulary from Latin and share anywhere between 40 or 50% to 80% of the vocabulary between one another. So learning Latin can be incredibly useful for learning these particular languages, as well as getting a better understanding of these languages. But don't get me wrong, if you're trying to just learn one language, or not necessarily even in the Romance family, but just one other language, then just learn that. It'll be a lot quicker and easier for you. But if you want to get a better understanding of those languages and perhaps other languages outside of that language family, then Latin could help you out a lot. To give you an example, I've dabbled a bit in German, and currently I'm studying Arabic. So at least at the get-go, I had a much easier time than my peers in learning Arabic, because Latin introduced me to some grammatical constructs and concepts that are similar between the two languages. So I had a lot of an easier time learning that. So if your intent is to learn a lot of languages, or to get a better understanding of languages like English, Arabic, and so on, and other inflected languages, Latin can help you out a lot. Next reason people decide to learn Latin is to help them think analytically. So I'll tell you from the start, Latin's not going to make you smarter, but what it could do is it could help you think more carefully and teach you that skill, because it can be an acquired skill. The reason Latin helps you do this is because it's a very inflected language, and there's a lot of rules to get down. So that can kind of seem daunting at the start, but once you get down those rules, it makes it so much easier in the long run. And once you start reading Latin playwrights, authors, and orators like Cicero, Virgil, Terence, Plautus, and so on, they start to play with the language a little bit, and that's because of the inflection of the language. It allows them to do that. And so sometimes you might have your subject over here in a sentence, but if any of you have ever read Cicero, you know that the end of that sentence is not coming for another 8 lines or so. So Latin forces you to think more carefully, and to think twice before you're making a decision, if you're trying to really understand the text and really translate it well. So it helps you think more carefully. It also introduces you to a new culture, because the ancient Roman, there's a distinction, the ancient Roman culture is very interesting. Ancient Roman society has very intriguing history, culture, as long as with the other cultures of the ancient Mediterranean. So I thoroughly believe that in order to really get an understanding of a language, you've got to get an understanding of its culture as well, because within every language is a little bit of the culture of the people who either spoke or are now speaking the language today. And that goes with any language. So it opens you up to new experiences. And the great thing about Latin is that, especially if you live in Western culture, well, Western culture derives a lot of things, and we've gotten a lot of stuff from Latin. So it's very important. You never know. Just by studying Latin, you might end up finding a little bit more about your own culture as well. Last of all, my last reason is Latin is still not dead yet, or at least I do not believe it's a dead language in the truest sense of the word, and this is for many reasons. For instance, Latin is still pretty pervasive in our society. for instance, if you live in the US, it's all over our money. It's on the stuff that we use every single day. If you live in the US, grab a dollar bill real quick. If you look on the back, it says E pluribus unum. What does that mean? It's our Latin motto. It means out of many, one. Meaning that out of many people, out of many cultures, we are one people. We can stand together as one nation. Which is a pretty great motto in my opinion. Not only that, but a lot of our states, 18 to be exact, and 19 if you count Puerto Rico, actually include their own Latin mottos as well. So it's pervasive in that sense. A lot of colleges and universities choose to use Latin mottos and have Latin on their emblems. I know my school does. In addition to that, one thing that people always say when you're trying to learn Latin is, I want to use it in the medical field or the law field or something like that. And a lot of those two fields and some others use a lot of Latin terminology. Science as well, where a lot of stuff is still named in Latin today. And in addition to that, not only just in things like the professional field, or if you want to go into religion or something like that, but Latin's also pervasive in some other ways. There are many Latin societies, such as the American Classical League, and the smaller part of that, the Junior Classical League, which the Junior Classical League is an international Latin organization comprised of young individuals, over 50,000 now across the world, who are dedicated to learning more about classics, Latin, and the civilizations behind Latin and ancient Greek. In addition to that, there are sources that are still using Latin as official sources, as well as making up new words. And that's really the real reason why I don't think Latin's a dead language, is because there are still modern organizations that are using Latin as an official means. One of these organizations is the Vatican. You may not know, but in the Catholic Church, Latin was pretty much used up until right around the 1950s. As all sermons were conducted in Latin up until about that point. And even now today, the Vatican will still put out, when it puts out official documents, it may be in other languages, but Latin is typically always one of them, if it's an official announcement. In fact, the Pope resigned recently, which some of you might be aware of, and his speech was in Latin, and then it was translated afterwards. And in addition to that, there's also other sources like Nuntii Latini, one of my favorite sources for modern Latin stuff, where it's a Finnish site, if I'm to be correct, which puts out current event stories. So it actually keeps up with current events and posts their stories as well as an audio cast in Latin. And obviously they'll have to adapt new words for describing things like, helicopter or computer, or things that obviously didn't exist, 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. But that's another point that I want to get to. Latin's been around for a very long time, and it's been in pretty frequent use for most of that time as well. And in fact, it was used thoroughly by educated individuals well up until the late 1800s or so for official documents and things like that. And there are still a lot of Latin enthusiasts out there. Latin's been around for almost about 3,000 years now, so I don't think it's going anywhere fast anytime soon, and definitely not if I have anything to say about it. But Latin's a really great language. I definitely suggest that you take a look at it, see what it can offer for you, and you never know.